Okay, so this is Erouting OSPF PT Practice SBA, and this was the exam for CCNA2 version 4 in 2012. I know it's a bit of an outdated version now, but understanding this could be useful for the exam of the new version of CCNA2, which is the 5.0. Probably be the one that people taking the exam in late 2014 or early 2015 will have to face. uh, which includes some concepts that we were not taught until now. So let's go ahead and try and solve this. As you can see, we have an addressing table with some missing IP addresses. We are given the access passwords, executive mode and class, or enable secret password. In step 1, we are asked firstly to configure and verify interface addressing on router branch 2, and just minimize this a bit, which is this router over here. Fortunately, we are given all these addresses. They're here on the table, so let's go ahead and try and do that. Oh, by the way, we are told that we can only access router branch 2 through the console connection on netadmin, which is the PC in the yellow square here. So let's go ahead and do that. To go into the console, we'll have to go to terminal, not IP configuration. So let's use the passwords we're given. Cisco, enable, class. We can do a show IP interface brief just to verify the status of the interfaces. And as we can see, they're all unassigned and administratively down. So let's start with the first interface, which is F00. I'm going to configure terminal, interface F00. We give it an IP address. This is the address we see in the table, and it ends, the subnet mask ends in 192. We say no shutdown, and it's up. Move on to interface F01. Give it an IP address, and the IP address ends in 225. And the subnet mask ends in 240. No shutdown, and it's up. Move on to the serial interface. Give it an IP address, and we can see it ends in 242. It's a serial connection, so it will always end in 252. No shutdown. We finally create the loopback interface. It's a 0 loopback, and we give it an IP address. And subnet mask is 255 all the way. And we can go ahead and save it. Or we can confirm, verify using the do show IP interface brief. And they're all up except 0001 because it's not being used. Copy. Start. Now we can move on to the second part of step 1, configure PC2. The last IP address in the subnet. Now the subnet the PC2 is on is the same as interface F00 is on. The subnet mask ends in 192, which indicates that there's 2 bits in the last octet that are network bits. The last bit is this, the first one from left to the right will be the 128, the second will be 64, which added together 192. Now 64 indicates the increment from subnet to subnet. So the first network address will be 0, the second will be 64, the third will be 128, which tells us that 129 is the first usable address. So this subnet would go all the way up to 191, which would be the broadcast address. So the last usable will be 190, and that's the address you would have to give the PC. Subnet mask will be the same as this interface F00, which ends in 129. 255.192. And default gateway will be the IP address of interface F00, which ends in 129. So that's done. Next, we are asked to configure interface F01 on router branch 1 with the last IP address in the subnet. Now what subnet would that be? If we look carefully, interface F01 on router branch 1 is on the same network or the same subnet as interface F01 of router branch 2. Interface 01 of router branch 2 is the one with this IP address and a subnet mask that ends in 240. 240 indicates that there are 4 bits in the last octet that are network bits. Starting from left to right will be the 128, the 64, the 32, and the 6 and the 16. The last bit would indicate the increment. And instead of going from network address 0 to 16 to 32 and so on, I tried dividing 225 by the increment 16, and that gives 14 point something. Multiplying the increment 16 by 14 gives exactly 224, which indicates that 225 is the first usable address in this subnet. So adding the increment number 16 to the network address 224 gives 240, but that will be the network address of the following subnet. 239 will be the broadcast address of this subnet, and 238 will be the last usable, and that's the address we need to assign interface F01 on router branch 1. Enable class, do a show IP interface brief, and interface fast Ethernet 01 is unassigned and administratively down, so let's go and configure it. Configure terminal, assign it an IP address, and it needs to have the same subnet mask as interface F01 on router branch 1, which ends in 240. So 255, 255, 255, 240. No shutdown. Right. I've got the interface. Interface F01. No shut. And it's up. We can verify. Do show IP interface brief. And it's now been assigned an IP address and it's up. So we can go ahead and save that. Copy, run, start. And that's done. Finally, we asked to verify connectivity. However, I'm confident that we will only be able to ping from root to branch 1 to root to branch 2. End device to end device will not be possible as we haven't configured any routing protocol yet. Could try and ping ping 172.16.1.25.25. And that seemed to have worked. 80%. If we repeat the same procedure, we should get 100. Yes. So that concludes step 1. Just copy, run, start again.